frames. The Derby motor, though, does run disc valve induction rather than reed valves, and allegedly that makes it a lot more...
We are with Ueda. The difference between the race leader Caparossi and Ueda is 6 odd seconds. Ueda is driving very, very well indeed. He's obviously not going to win this race, I don't think. I'm fairly sure in saying, but he is riding a very mature race indeed.
Inside two more back markers goes young Loris. Whoops, no, inside one of them he goes. There is the top 4 of the Australian 125 Grand Prix. Join us in a moment. You won't miss a thing here on Eurosport. No changes in the order of the Australian 125cc Grand Prix. Still, this man, number 1, Loris Capirossi, leads from his teammate, number 7, Fausto Grissini, and the Japanese Honda rider, Noboru Ueda. Ezio Gianola on the Works Derby is in 4th place. He's riding number 6, and indeed the race on the track, Keith, is really for 3rd place. The question is, can Ezio Gianola give the Works Derbies their first points in World Championship racing for over a year?
Well, I think the answer to that, barring any mechanical problems, it doesn't look like Ezio is prepared to actually stick it on the grass to try and gain any more places, so perhaps 4th place will do him at this particular...
It's a very difficult thing indeed to do.
Well, that's absolutely right. That's a very good point you've made there. The concentration level for a young man that's relatively new to the game, if you like, to control races from the front, to keep your concentration up when you know you're the quickest man out there, is actually very difficult indeed. He's certainly making the power down, laying the power down over that slightly pattery part on his suspension, making the suspension work hard through that left-hander.
Even in the World Championship standings.
Yes, and certainly in this 125 race they've actually got time for thinking about things like that, because they're so spread out. Normally it's a reflex action of fighting off an overtaking manoeuvre from the inside or the outside, but here we have the first 4 fairly well spread out, not fighting for position, so they've got time to calculate what they're doing. Caparossi looked over his shoulder there and he'd have seen absolutely nothing on the outside then.
Yes, this isn't as, how shall I put this, Keith? This isn't as physical as the Australian Grand Prix last year, is it?
No, more ways than one, that's for sure, but I think it only goes to emphasise just how good Caparossi is.
Do you think he's the sort of rider that could move up to 250cc racing in the very near future? Or is his stature, his style, his upbringing, if you like, going to keep him on 125s in the way that people like Hans Spahn, Aspar Martinez...
Championship on the 125 class again this year, then he really should have a look at the 250s. He's got so much time on his side at 17 years old that even if he took a year out racing 250s and couldn't get on with the situation, and after all he would test them extensively in the close season, so he'd know whether he was any good on 250s before he actually signed the contract. It depends what contracts are offered to him, but I'd like to see him on 250s if he won another 125 world champion.
And if I was his team manager, I'd think I'd be talking to...
Your bank manager, yes, I know, Julian.
I was thinking of the Honda Racing Corporation. If I won them 2 world championships with young Mr. Capirossi, I try not to talk to my bank manager, Keith, you know that.
Well, of course, there was a lovely quote last week from John Krasinski about why he went from the 250. Of course, John Krasinski, being 250 world champion, moved straight up to 500cc class after winning that world championship. He just didn't want to bother with the 250s anymore. He was straight in 500s, and in his only second 500 Grand Prix finished 3rd. So perhaps Capirossi could do it as well. That's 53. Now that is the man that Capirossi had to be coming together with in practice.
That's Mr. Scott, a local Australian.
It certainly looked like Rossini almost had the same problem there. Watch out for Mr. Scott. Well, Fausto Grissini is certainly settled into 2nd place here. I think it's going to be a nice smooth point-scoring ride from Grissini. Back with Capirossi, another good smooth point-scoring ride as well at the front. Well, we expected from you.
They weren't suited to all conditions. I rephrased that last remark.
You're absolutely right, and it was only Ueda. There are the positions.
No changes in the top 8. Martinez still in for point scoring position again. Fausto Grassini, second place on his own, comfortable 5 to 6 second lead over the battle for third. Third place currently held by Noboru Ueda. And we want to see really, Keith, whether Ezio Gianola, number 6 on the Derby, is going to try and get past Ueda.
Well, I think if he's close enough, he'll definitely have a go at it. But Ueda has been the man of these last 2 Grand Prix, in my view. I mean, he is really a new man to actual Grand Prix prop.
To be lapped by the leader, Loris Capirossi, who was about to get the treatment.
Goes to show though, Julian, that privateer motorcycles in the 125 class are almost as fast as works motorcycles. Superb stuff, and there is the gap between Grassini number 7 and number 60 Noboru Ueda, who has a good lead on Gianola as well. So this is a very spread out 125 race.
Yep, Ueda, number 60, 23 years old, a test rider for HRC in Japan. That isn't a worked Honda paint scheme on his fairing, but don't let that fool you. That's a full works Honda motorcycle. His wonderfully named major sponsor is Hero Sports. I love it.
Yeah, but uncharacteristic and very mature in his riding. There's no doubt about that. He is taking the points, which is the way to win world championships.
Indeed, 2 rostrums in his first 2 Grand Prix, it looks like. And I'm sure he would have settled for that if you'd offered him that before Japan. Talking of interesting sponsors, I see that the number 52, the young Australian lady Linda Walsh in this race, has a very interesting sponsor, Keith, one you'd have loved to have had, I'm sure. Sophie Marshall's Sports Massage is one of her sponsors.
Yes, well now you've got that plug-in, of course. When you're in Australia, you'll have to go to the services of that particular place.
Loris Capirossi, the reigning world champion, the youngest ever at 17 years old. He rode motocross as a youth, then he rode European Championship 125s. He won at Donington Park in 1989. I saw him there winning as a 16-year-old, and he has fulfilled all of his promise. Possibly a future great.
Hello, what was all that about, I wonder? I think he thought that was it.
I think he saw the man in the yellow blazer and thought, hello, the checkered flag's about to arrive. He's preparing to do his Kevin Schwartz. That's Alan Patterson, number 44. In his new vivid leathers.
Well, of course, he's going to be one lap. He's not going to have to race for the extra lap, because I think that our man Capirossi is going to pass him before then. No, he's not. So
no.
Alan Patterson is going to have to do the extra lap as Capirossi covers the lap and wins the race.
And he has every right to be pleased. That was a masterful display. He didn't want to stay and play with the others, did he? Grassini second. 1-2 for Team AGV Pilleri. They will be pleased. There he is, Loris Capirossi.
Yes, Fred Merkel, the American superbike rider, pointed out to me that he was the original man that stood on his foot pegs and shook his hands, and of course Kevin Schwantz stole that style from him, and now Capirossi is using it in the 125 winning mode. And here we have...
That is Linda Walsh right behind Hans Spahn. And there's some really serious dicing going on for the points here. Look at them swinging across the track. Oh dear. I didn't think you could wheelie a 125 like that.
Well, Capirossi has got multi-talents, there's no doubt about that. He's not bad wheeling them either.
That's the top Aussie finisher, number 29, Pete Galvin.
Well, that's a good ride actually from Galvin, there's no doubt about that. Aussie 125 riders aren't renowned in the 125 class.
The Aussie I always think should still be on a 125 is Paul Lewis, who won multiple Australian championships on a 125 and is built for them.
Paul Lewis, known as the song and dance man.
I won't ask.
Every time he ended up in the dirt, he did a song and dance.
You can explain that one to him. This is Loris Capirossi. 4th career win. second win in Australia, I beg his pardon. He's also won in Hungary and in Great Britain. And he's probably the bloke the Australian crowd expected to see take the checkered flag first. Just like at Phillip Island last year, he comes down pit lane, the winner, to the enthusiastic welcome from his team.
Watch for all the hats flying onto his head. All the sponsors will be there in a moment. He doesn't look like he's even worked hard, does he, Julian?
Often worries me, Keith, what must it be like to be 17 years old, Italian, and a world motorcycle champion? Can there be anything better to be?
Well, I don't think so, that's for certain. Perhaps 500 world champion in a year or two's time, that might just top it. But of course, at 17, you've just got such a lot of life to go yet. I mean, it must be so... There's just so much to do.
Being hurried away to the rostrum. He doesn't look any older, does he, Keith? He still looks like a kid.
Well, 17 he is, that's for certain.
There's confirmation of the finishing order. Capirossi, Grassini, Ueda, Gianola, we saw throughout that race. Good fifth place for Volderman. Takada, a Japanese rider who we have seen on the Grand Prix before, sneaks into sixth ahead of Hans Luthi and Alessandro Grimini, who had a dreadful Japanese Grand Prix. At least he scored some points here in Australia. That's oh, there's Ezio, and I think the Spanish are pleased with him. I think Ezio would rather have been on the rostrum.
Well, yes, but Ueda, really, the Japanese managed to get that third place, that rostrum position, so that's twice in two races on the rostrum for Ueda, which is a superb position, actually. I've got to say, he's got to be my second man of the meeting next to Capirossi so far.
I think we have to make Ueda the man of the season so far. Certainly the discovery of the season, I should say, Keith. Anybody you can race with these guys in 125s is a really good...
Yeah, I've got to say, that race actually being that spread out made it look very, very easy for the front runners, but it certainly is not. 125 racing is one of the most competitive classes. I am actually very surprised to have seen it that spread out throughout the race. There was a huge gap between third and fourth place. The man there obviously explaining his troubles.
And that makes it interesting, doesn't it? Ueda and Capirossi, joint leaders of the championship, 1 point ahead of Fausto Grassini. My maths was wrong earlier, no change there then. Volderman, a very handy fourth place. Luthi, who I think we should really watch this season, in fifth, 2 points ahead of Aspar. There's the rest of them. Grimini opening his account, Hans Spahn opening his account, Adi Stadler, Dirk Raudiers and Gabi Debbia also in there. Debbia did get a couple of points in Japan though. The German guys didn't. Here's the local hero, Pete Galvin, the wonderfully named Team Dreiserbone rider. And let's take a look at the style of young Loris Capirossi. Here he is. Don't the Aussies give us nice pictures?
To witness this, the first of the International Motorcycle Grand Prix to be held here at Eastern Creek. A fantastic result.
Through the left-hander and a little bit of a wheelie.
Usually come in first.
A big bit of a wheelie, in fact. Nice one, Loris.
18 years of age, the youngest ever world champion.
And there he is on the rostrum. And I think the locals like him. I should think Loris Capirossi probably likes Australia quite a lot as well.
Not a bad result for that team.
Yeah, if he carries on like this, he's going to be buying his holiday flat down there, I reckon. He's certainly earning enough money for that this week.
And a little bit of an upset, but nevertheless a welcome one. Nobi Ueda
That's
from
Fausto,
Japan, who won the Japanese Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago.
Yes. And of course, rather than call him Noboru, they're calling him Nobby. I've been trying to avoid doing that for 2 weeks, Keith.
I'd like now to introduce Mr. Tony Marcoux.
Well, there we go. Ueda certainly must be the proudest man at the moment. 2 rides like that in 2 weeks.
And the two men on the right there,
Thank you,
Nobby Ueda, as we should now call him,
We at Ansett Air Freight are very
and
proud
young
to be
Loris Capirossi are
sponsors of
joint
this
leaders
125
of the
world event.
125cc World Championship.
Congratulations
1 point
to the
ahead of the man on the
team
left
for winning
there,
first and
Fausto
second. A
Grissini.
wonderful effort. We're just very proud to be involved. Thank you.
That was a word from your sponsor. Victor's laurels for Loris. That's a bit of a small trophy for a winner. Kid, you got a bigger vase than that at Suzuka.
Yeah, they're probably going to have a big can of lager to squirt over the barrier in a moment instead of champagne, but we'll wait for that development.
The Italian national anthem. And I think I detected a little bit of emotion from Loris at the start of his national anthem. A slight quiver of the top lip, a tear in the corner of the eye, but he was soon smiling again.
Well, he deserves to be able to have a tear in his eye after the second Australian Grand Prix win. Brilliant again.
Two Dunlop runners, one Bridgestone runner on the rostrum. A nice mix, but three Hondas making it in the 125s. We're going to take a break. Join us again in a moment.
Okay, well, I guess there's nothing.
Pierre Francesco Chili, 500 rider, of course, last year. The last European to win a 500 Grand Prix, albeit the strike race at Misano. Doriano Romboni on the second row of the grid. Now, this is interesting, Keith. His bikes were not quite in tune for Japan. They've been lost down a ravine, apparently, in the transporter. That is Andy Preining on another Aprilia. Shall we check the full grid then, folks? First row, Cadalora, Bradl, Cardus, Zeelenberg, all on Hondas, and Loris Reggiani. Hooray for Loris, I say, on the Aprilia. Fifth on the grid, making up the front row. Second row, Wimmer on the new Suzuki, another great practice. Keeley on the second factory Aprilia. Third row, Jochen Schmidt, Alex Crivellet, Masahiro Shimizu, Carlos Lavado. And oh dear, he's still going. Ah, look at that, Van der Hayden, the European Championship rider from last year, protege of Van Dulman's, looking good. There's the first sign of the Yamahas, Puig on the Puig, the Spaniard, number 16 there. Jimmy Felice. Steve Whitehouse, the Aussie, number 24. He'll be pleased with that. Row 7, Peter Linden, the Swedish Air Force pilot, figuring in front of Corrado Catalano, the Agostini team Yamaha. And Ian Newton, the Briton, is the first man on row 8, with a lot of Aussies behind him, and then a couple of Kiwis make up row 9. That is the grid for the 250cc Grand Prix of Australia. You're looking at live pictures here on Eurosport. Don't forget, folks, if you want to see the Grand Prix, this is the only station that will give you them all live. Luca Cadalora, first year on a Honda.
Yeah, it's a good study of the Arai helmet there. You can see all the vents that riders have in them nowadays, built into the things. You can see at the back there the exits for the air. You can see at the front that on the top of the thing, even in his visor, he's got vents to keep his head cool as we go on. There's the points position after the first rounds.
That's effectively the finishing order for the Japanese Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. It was a repeat of the year before. Cadalora, Carduce, Zeelenberg on Hondas. Taguchi, Aoki, Harada are not here, which I think is a shame because they're very talented Japanese 250 men. Helmut Bradl, you see, snuck into 7th place, with Masahiro Shimizu having another slow start to a season. Number 8 is Jochen Schmidt on the RS Honda. 11 is Alex Crivellet. He was the youngest ever world champion until Capirossi got there. Masahiro Shimizu, the man we were talking about, is number 7. 15, Carlos Lovato, another old hero. Kel Carruthers there with the sun glinting off his scalp. Nowadays the tuner for Carlos Carduce. 33, Stefan Prine. They're off on their warm-up lap any moment now, and that Constructors' Championship order will not surprise anybody at all.
Well, I don't know whether I agree with that. Look at Suzuki in 4th place. That's brilliant. Suzuki 250s. Don't forget, this is a Honda-dominated class, and there we have Suzuki actually already scoring points in the Constructors' Championship after their first race in Japan. And Martin Wimmer, of course, in 6th place on the grid here on the Suzuki. I spoke to Lucky Strike team manager Gary Taylor earlier, and he actually told me all about the 250, said that they'd done a lot of work on it. Martin was very happy with it, and it's going to be competitive, even possibly for a rostrum position today.
Yeah, Martin's apparently got a new chassis, new suspension, new engine bits, new everything.
Yes, and the motorbike's been improved as well.
Oh dear, I've always thought that Martin Wimmer with his law degree was an unlikely motorcycle racer, but a very good professional development rider. Right, Keith. Who should we put our money on in this one? Is this a track built for Luca Cadalora?
When you say who shall we put our money on, are you asking me whether you're going to put money on the table, Ryder? Because I think, we've got an on-bike camera facing backwards. That should be fairly interesting, say the least.
Pier Francesco Chili.
Well, he is a fairly good-looking rider, I suppose. So they didn't pick a bad one to fire back on. You can see that pipe that you can see is the tank breather pipe. Oh, now we've got a forward one. That's a bit more like it. Killy's bike still. You can see the rev counter down in the right-hand corner. No, you can't. That's the water temperature gauge. I'm sorry. It's not.
I thought he'd seized, Keith.
Thank you very much. But a good view nonetheless. Hello. Just a quick blackout. Back with the picture again, and you can see that this 250 race is going to be a good race. I think that it's going to be quite close. I'm going to get off the fence, as I've been advised by our crew, and say that Cadalora is going to win from Carduce. I think Bradl will be 3rd. There you go, Cadalora, Carduce, Bradl. I predict. We've not seen anything to suggest that just yet, but
I think Bradl's good for a rostrum position here, Keith. I really do.
But having said that, 250 racing is notoriously close, and obviously from the 125 race we've seen that all of the 125 riders improve their practice times and their warm-up times. The warm-up times for the 250s were quicker as well, so we're looking forward to some upsets, I think.
We are. That's Preining, the Austrian, on the Aprilia. And number 20 on the yellow bike was Romboni. I'm going to be really interested to see how he goes.
Well, they make them tough in Holland, that's for sure. He's right on the case now. Number 3, Luca Cadalora, hangs in 2nd place.
There's Carduce still in 3rd. Zeelenberg, the 2 Aprilias are there. Then Casoli, that's excellent. And Jondat, the young Rothmans Honda Frenchman. Now, from that top 8 we saw there, that is not a surprise, Keith Ewan. Not a surprise.
Now, Cadalora's looked like the fastest man all the way through the race, as we've already said.
Luca's now 27 from Modena in northern Italy. World 125 champ in 1986 on the twin-cylinder Garelli. His win 2 weeks ago was his 13th Grand Prix victory. 4 of them were achieved on 125s, the rest of them on the 250s. One of the most stylish racers on any class of motorcycle, and he's only just over half a second behind the leader, Helmut Bradl, in the Australian 250 Grand Prix.
Yeah, Bradl will have been getting some indication from his pit crew that Cadalora's closing in. It'll be interesting to see.
Like both BNSR Hondas, but Bradl's bike is tuned by Sepp Schlegel, who you will remember very unfondly for making Anton Mang's motorcycles go so quickly, and Cadalora has the services of the great Irv Kanemoto.
Yeah, it's difficult to say that there's a lot of difference in those tuners, to be absolutely honest. I mean, Schlegel probably gets perhaps a fraction better in the way of the performance of the motor from Bradl's bike, but Cadalora definitely has a good tuner with him in Kenny Motor.
All of it on Hondas. And he is a man who wants a win, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's doing it the right way. He knows he can't get away from Cadalora. He's not out of shape. He's only touched the grass once, which I think is pretty good for Helmut Bradl. There's that turn again that he doesn't like. Ends up out wide there. And
Luca Cadalora will be well aware of that, Keith, won't he? He will have sized that up ages ago, that is a position on the track where Helmut Bradl is weak. He will be storing that information for the closing stages of the race. Yeah. But the Aussie Darrell Beattie, who rode so impressively in his debut Grand Prix in the 250 race last year, isn't here. He's racing Formula 1 bikes, big 4-strokes in Japan this year. We might see him, so rumour has it, on a 500.
Yeah, he rode superbly last year here, didn't he? But Bradl still has control.
The 2 Aprilias of Reggiani and Pier Francesco Chili. We'll take a break. Join us again in a moment. With 7 laps to go in the Australian 250 Grand Prix, these two, Helmut Bradl and Luca Cadalora, lead with a very comfortable margin in hand over Carlos Carduce in 3rd and Wilco Zeelenberg of Holland in 4th. Number 4 is Helmut Bradl on the yellow HB Honda. Number 3, there he is, Luca Cadalora, and they are attacking back markers.
Yeah, let's hope and Bradl, bit of indecision there on which side to take them. It's a very difficult thing to do on a tight and twisty track. He gets held up there. Cadalora homes in on the rear end. Now, will he be able to get through? One more man round the outside by the look of this.
And certainly Helmut Bradl got no benefit from that little end. Helmut Bradl, number 4, leads the Australian Grand Prix. Can he make a debut win? Let's check his career details out. There he is, the HB Honda rider, 29 years old, only started racing in 1984, a late starter who has made remarkable progress, as I said earlier, Keith, in this era of teenage world champions. And the man following him is a very, very experienced racer indeed. Luca Cadalora, first Grand Prix win as long ago as 1986 on a 125 Garelli in West Germany. He was 125 world champion that year. His first Grand Prix was 1984 at home in Misano. A very, very experienced man with 13 Grand Prix wins to his credit.
Very experienced, but still only 27 years old.
Fellow HB Honda rider, teammate really, of Helmut Bradl. Not that poor Stefan could do anything about it. Luca will now prove that you can wheelie 250s for quite a long way.
Well, judging by the amount of black tyre marks on the track, it seemed like it was an eventful 250 race for various, taking a close view of the sand traps, but fortunately nothing like that happened for the leading 2.
That's more like it, Luca.
Yep, down pit lane. He's going to run his pit crew over now.
Oh, he won't do that to Irv Kanemoto. Irv will probably be there to greet his rider as
the man with the septic yellow sunglasses gets the mic in there as fast as he can.
Luca does speak a little bit of English. He's a bit shy about using it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a job when someone's choking you, isn't it, though?
Obviously a rival helmet company representative, Keith.
Well, they're all having a go at him here, aren't they? They'll end up pulling his head off if he's not absolutely careful. Let's have a look and see what kind of condition he's in after what was really a fairly easy race. I don't like to say that, but it certainly made it look very easy. Oh, Les, it's definitely a bit warm down under.
Yes, Luca looks a lot more relaxed than Helmut does, it has to be said.
It's a job to work out what was whiter, the chest or the leathers. Super race there from Bradl though. He will be proud of that. Disappointed, he looks very disappointed, which is a great shame. I don't like to see that. I feel sorry for the man. He did everything he could to win the race, but Cadalora, I have to say, was perhaps a better tactician in these circumstances. And Cadalora left Bradl no opportunity on that last lap to do anything about it. So Bradl, a valiant loser, I think.
I think that's an excellent analysis. That's the winner, Luca Cadalora. And that is, yes, say hello to the Honda man.
Nice to see all this, all these different teams shaking hands and congratulating each other.
That man is Italian.
Well, we didn't get a lot of that last year with Kaczynski and company. He hated Germans, he hated Italians, in fact he hated anyone that wasn't US.
And he still does.
Well, that's true, but he's moved on to the 500 class.
Although it was this guy Bradl that Kaczynski was prepared to be pleasant about. Not at a racetrack, but after the season ended.
There's Fiona, the lovely Fiona from the Urta caravan there.
Yes, thank you, Keith. Right, confirmation. Cadalora and Bradl, your first two. Cardus held on to third. From Zeelenberg, 3 Aprilias, Reggiani, Keeley and Preining. And Jochen Schmidt making it a good day for Germany. And a few people opening their account there. Carlos Lovato, Kevin Mitchell, Jean-Pierre Jondat, the new Rothmans guy. Jimmy Rocky Felice getting the last finishing slot.
Yeah, good to see. That's two Grand Prix in a row that he's actually finished. He's recovering from a terrific car, or horrendous I should say, not terrific car injury from last year.
Yeah, interestingly, he's entered as Team Galina, is Mr. Felice. So Roberto Galina, the man who's taken 2 Italians to World Championships, who's been in Grand Prix racing for as long as I can remember. Oh, right. Confirmation of the riders' standings. Cadalora, a perfect record. 2 20-point finishes for his 2 wins. Puts him 8 points clear of Carlos Cardus in second place, from Zeelenberg in third. Keeley's opened his account, so's Preining. Carlos Lovato sneaking into 14th place, don't you love it?
Why do you keep laughing that Carlos Lovato is scoring points? He's one of my all-time 250 heroes.
He's
of
a
Venezuelan.
wonderful man. He's an archetypal South American. He's the most cheerful, pleasant and amazingly talented rider.
A little old maybe, but
Getting on a
still
bit.
scoring points.
Look at that, Aprilia second in the constructors in front of Yamaha. And you can see Martin Wimmer didn't score any points in the Australian.
Yeah, that's a shame, because I know that Team Suzuki definitely had high hopes in that particular race. He'd done very well in practice and in pre-qualifying this morning, so that's a shame.
Yes, I'm wondering whether Martin was in some way a victim of the mayhem.
I'm trying to work out this piece of Australian architecture here, but only the Australian that designed it possibly could.
Yes, I think he's got 1/16 of the Sydney Opera House there. The Eastern Creek track being only 35 kilometres from Sydney. This is entirely possible, Keith.
The TUI's draft sponsorship, who incidentally are sponsoring on a one-race basis Kevin McGee on the Lucky Strike Suzuki for this particular 500 race that's upcoming.
Are they? Are they indeed, Keith Ewan? Yes, Kevin McGee. Here's the rostrum. Carlos Cardus not looking desperately pleased with third.
Well, if
but
you're
happier than Helmut
the guy that
Bradl.
spoilt that, Luca Cadalora.
Well, I don't think that's too bad. I mean, he's scoring good points. It's early days yet. These far-off races,
Like now to introduce
once we get into
Mr.
Europe,
Ray
of course,
Weeks,
it will be
Chief
much
Executive
better.
of Rothmans.
Yes, and don't forget that riders can discard their 2 worst points, their 2 worst results in World Championship scoring this year. That will complicate the issue at the end of the season for sure.
Yeah, I don't know whether I agree with those kind of things. It always makes a bit of a mockery of all of the races. I think that, personally, I think everything should count.
Yes, as a spectator, I always felt I was being shortchanged maybe if I was watching a race that might not count. I think the chaps were discussing some of the comings together.
Yes, the old Michelin man's not too quick off the mark here, is he really? He's not got the Michelin hat on race winner, which is quite unusual.
The loss of the Grand Prix has been New South Wales' gain.
And we're going to be treated to the Italian national anthem extended mix version again very shortly, I think.
Yeah. Yes, that's for sure. It's the long play version. It's a very enthusiastic national anthem, sort of matches their riders quite well, I think.
Very suitable piece of music.
To congratulate you.
Helmut Bradl looking very inscrutable.
I think a little disappointed. He really shouldn't be. I mean, it was a superb race for him. He really couldn't have any answer to Cadalora. Cadalora, not the smarter of the two, but certainly rode a more tactical race and sat behind Bradl. Bradl obviously thought he could lead from the front, but Cadalora left him no room or opportunity to make a pass on that last lap, so Bradl had to settle for second. Which is more than can be said for Carduce, of course. He was a very distant third on the Repsol Honda, but I don't know, the trophies are getting bigger as the classes do. 125 trophy was only a small one, and we have the Italian national anthem.
What happens next, guys? The second playing of the Italian national anthem today. And that looks like it'll contain a lot of the sponsor's product, that trophy.
A little later on, I'm sure it will do. Nice gesture.
Yeah. Helmut cracks a smile, and so he should.
Thanks very much, Mr. Weeks. Well, that Italian anthem certainly had its fair share of play today. I don't wish to
Luca Cadalora, a very worthy winner.
Okay, if we can just have a quick word with Luca, and Luca,
There's that horrible flick for the first gear, turn 6 and 7. Not popular, I'm told. Over the hill, under the bridge, and into the third gear, Ripley left-hander.
And that is the track from the air. And here are the guys on the grid.
Well, Wayne Rainey's standing there like the proverbial tough guy, which he is.
Which he is, yes, thank you.
Can't argue with any of that.
Wayne Rainey on pole position, as he has been from the first session of practice.
Yeah, that's not bad, is it? He's obviously going to make amends, or at least attempt to, on the Japanese situation. Schwantz and the Lucky Strike Suzuki, they have struggled all the way through this week.
Now, why is that, Keith? The bike was so right for Japan.
Well,
after we'd heard about it being a right difficult piece of work all through pre-season testing, it was obviously right for Japan, pole position and a win. And now they come to a new track and it's all over the place again.
I think that emphasises the fact that you need to test. And certainly you need to test if you are going to have competitors that are testing there before you. The problem with Suzuki is they did not test here prior to this particular race meeting, whereas the other three major teams were here. I mean, Suzuki did test here before Christmas, but since then a whole load of things have moved on, suspension-wise and everything. Kajiva, Yamaha and Honda spent a lot of time here testing at Eastern Creek. Suzuki haven't.
And the impression I've gained over the past couple of years is that when the Suzuki is working right, when they've got it set up dead right, it is a wonderful tool, but it is very sensitive, so it seems. If you're a millimetre off on your ride height or any of these other variables, it seems to throw the whole plot out.
Well, I think that's correct. I think that basically Suzuki have been unfortunate in the situation with testing. The problem is that if one team tests, they all really have to, and obviously they're all on varying sponsorship budgets. I think it's a situation that I've discussed at length with Gary Taylor, and his view is that if they're not very careful, we're going to be going down the right. That looks like the eyes of Wayne Gardner. I won't make a comment, Julian. I'll leave that to you. I will get back to what I was saying. We're going to go down the roads of having actual test teams. It's been discussed. Martin Wimmer is trying to tee up a test team for the 250 team for next year. In as much as that you actually have a B string of riders and machines that go out and do the testing, then your star men come in, give it a try and clear off again. But of course it's all very costly and it's a major problem for budgets. Money is not easy to come by in these megabucks type teams.
Gardner, and welcome to all the fans here at Eastern Creek.
Of course, Formula 3000, the car racing situation, the rules specify no testing on circuits that are to be raced on in the same season, which is actually a pretty sensible rule, really. But I think the biggest, I can't use the word on air, but basically the biggest mess of things is that the FIM have done away with Thursday testing, or the free practice that precedes the official qualifying test session. Every team really has to run a bike in non-timed practice to get their bike settled down and all the new equipment bolted onto them. You don't really want to do your testing in qualifying only.
But as the 500 grid watches the band depart, let's just check the results in the other two races so far today, starting with the 125cc Grand Prix. The winner was the world champion Loris Capirossi on his Honda, in a comfortable win from his teammate Fausto Grissini, who fought off the attentions of Japanese Grand Prix winner Noboru Ueda. In the 250 class, Luca Cadalora dealt with Helmut Bradl severely on the first corner of the last lap, and those two were a long way ahead of Carlos Cardus, who came in third. We're back live with Mick Doohan. Mick Doohan.
Yeah, Jerry Burgess doesn't get any prettier with age there on the left. Doohan's main mechanic. I wouldn't say that about the young lady holding the brolly, but I think Jerry has a bit more of a position of responsibility. There's Thierry the Belgian, that looks after some of the parts of John Kaczynski. They haven't specified which ones, but no doubt John will let us know later.
It's the amazing John Kaczynski, fourth in Japan, and here is the more than amazing Eddie Lawson, qualifying the Cagiva in fifth. Quite an astounding achievement for Eddie and the team.
Well, I would say so, including the team, because Barros, his teammate, is in seventh with a very good time. There's my mate Kevin Schwantz on the Lucky Strike Suzuki. And there's Barros now on the second Cagiva. They've got plenty to look happy about, this team. They're really coming on leaps and bounds. Barros was Ron Haslam's teammate from last year on the Cagiva. And there's Garriga on the Yamaha.
Garriga fell off in practice, got a badly bruised right hand in some discomfort.
There's the newly sponsored Tui's McGee. Kevin McGee. Now Didier Diradigs on the Lucky Strike Suzuki and McGee are sharing the two bikes that Didier would normally have, apparently. They've got one bike each, which really means that they can't stick their neck out in qualifying, because if one of them dumps it, they're not got a second bike to get on for qualifying time.
Right, let's check the grid, Keith. First row, Rainey in pole, Gardner and Doohan, the Aussie Rothmans Honda boys in the middle. Young John Kaczynski in fourth position. Row two, Lawson, Schwantz, Barros, amazing that, and Garriga. Row three of the grid, Jean-Philippe Rougier and Adrian Mirillas on the Sonorto Yamahas, Kevin McGee and Didier de Radiguez on the two Suzukis. Row four, the privateers. Well, Chandler's not a privateer, or Pons, are they? Eddie Laycock 15th on his rented 500 Yam, ahead of Keith Dorakers on the triple. Steve Spray on the Roton, the first British motorcycle on a Grand Prix grid for over 10 years on a 500 Grand Prix grid. And they've let Niggy Schmashman in to race, despite the fact, Keith, he didn't qualify within the set percentage of the pole position time.
Well, I've got to be fairly critical of that, I must say, because I think quality is better than quantity in most cases. I know the 500 is suffering from the quantity point of view, but I really don't believe in letting guys in that are so slow that they can't qualify within the more than adequate time.
Steve Spray on the left, Brian Crichton on the right with the Roton. The 588cc, depending on how you measure it, rotary Norton engined machine. That looked like Niggy Schmashman next to him.
Yeah, they made special dispensation, the FIM again have made special dispensation, while that's basically the Japanese result. Points leaders as they are at the moment after one round. But getting back to the situation with the Roton, the FIM have made a special dispensation for this thing to actually race, and the Nortons if they really want to, in Grand Prix. But of course they are, I hesitate to say outclassed at this point in time. It remains to be seen just how close to the pace they can get. In my view, they haven't got a hope in hell.
Well, over Easter at Donington Park, Ron Haslam on the official Norton, I think we can say. The Constructors' Championship there after one race. Suzuki will gain some cheer from that, as will Kajiva, I would suggest. Ron Haslam showed that the Norton in its old 1990 chassis is about a match for a standard 750cc superbike spec machine, the big 4-strokes. That is not Grand Prix 500 level.
No, the best man in Superbike put on this grid wouldn't even see which way the front six went. There's just not a chance of it. So I think that really, despite the fact it's nice to see a British-made motorcycle on the grid of a 500 Grand Prix again, after so many years, it's not a realistic challenge, I have to say, and I hope I'm not being unfair by saying that. I'm sure that no one will criticise me for saying that.
No, I thought it was actually a bit of a victory for them to qualify, to be honest. And if he finishes the race, I think that'll be a victory as well. They're off on the warm-up lap.
Well, last week the Japanese presented Kevin Schwantz's Lucky Strike Suzuki team with an award for being basically the best achievement of the week. Here's Eddie Lawson on the Kajiva. Again, another great camera shot, wonderful stuff. I do like to see these onboard cameras, they work so well. That looks like Garriga, he's about to punt up the backside.
Murillas,
sorry about that. Well, we do try to spot these things, Julian.
We do. Adrian Murillas on the Sonorto Yamaha. No Galois sponsorship for him or Jean-Philippe Rougier this year.
Well, as I was saying, Suzuki awarded by the Japanese last week.
Third place. This is the fight on the track now. There's the leader, there's Wayne Rainey, 5 seconds ahead of Gardner, who is in third place. John Kaczynski is in between them, but Kaczynski is definitely going to get the attentions of Mr. Gardner in the not too distant future.
Yeah, Rainey, he is so determined. He's got the whole bike on the move there. He is squirting the power on. Do you ever argue with Kenny Roberts?
Said about him, not to him. John Kaczynski, of course, the reigning 250 world champion. He was 14th in the 250s the year before. And again,
they were all waiting in pit lane for him as he went round. He's going to do
second lap, Wayne.
No, I think he's going to go up the pit lane the wrong way.
I think he wanted the checkered flag in the way that you get the checkered flag at the end of racing in Australia, in America, Keith. I think he was.
Hello, we've got a real demo coming from Wayne Ray. He's not actually too pleased, is he, at winning this race?
Oh, hello, Mick.
Mick Doohan giving us reasons and why-fors.
I'm never sure it's a good idea to stick a microphone up somebody's crash helmet at this point in proceedings.
Yeah, I didn't notice them do it to Eddie Lawson too often.
I've tried it with a notebook.
Where did he put it?
No, not to Lawson, I'm not that silly.
Look at Doohan, look, not a bead of sweat. I cannot work out how this man can go so fast and put so much effort in and look like he's just come out of the bar.
Where does he keep the ice packs? That's what I want to know. Oh, he's coming backwards down pit lane.
Obviously, Kenny Roberts didn't put that chip in.
Oh, silly hat time.
Where's my corks, mate?
That is Mick Doohan, for those of you who don't know the difference between the two Rothmans Honda riders. That is the other Rothmans Honda rider. Now, what if we get a clue about his wrist, if he's going to...
No, I don't think he's going to be giving too much away. I mean, he's not too much of a bloke that shouts about injuries, is he, Gardner?
No. When I saw him at the team launch, he pointed to the plaster on his wrist from the bone graft before Christmas, which is in February, and made the point that some journalists hadn't believed him. That's John Kaczynski on the rostrum. Now, he was on the rostrum in his 500 Grand Prix in Belgium 2 years ago, but the FIM took that distinction away from him. So even though he did stand on it, technically he never did, Keith. So can we say this is Kaczynski's first time on a 500 rostrum?
No, because he finished third in Japan.
I'm just looking down to see my sheets, Keith. He finished fourth.
Well, there you go. I told you I couldn't count. The 2 weeks have gone by since then.
Rainey was third in Japan. Now he's first here. Now then, what's that going to do to the Mick Doohan 2 seconds?
Well, since I can't even add up who finished third and fourth in Japan,
35.
I think I'll leave those calculations to my...
I think that gives Rainey the championship lead by 1 point from Mick Doohan. Well, so there's your confirmation of the Australian 500 Grand Prix. Rainey, Doohan, Kaczynski and Gardner, with Schwantz in 5th, Lawson in 6th, Regia, good result, 7th, and Alex Barros hanging on again in there for a well-deserved 8th place. 2 Kojivas up there. Marillas on the other Yamaha. Yeah, Marillas, as I was saying, on the Sonorto Yamaha gets 9th. De Radiguez in front of McGee, and Steve Spray gets a point for 15th on the Roton.
Well, that'll be very nice for Roton, of course, but again, I have to say academic, because there were only 16 finishers after all.
Right, good God, I cannot up, Keith. Rainey is leading the title chase by 1 point from Mick Doohan, and it's 3 points further back to Kevin Schwantz, another 3 points down to John Kaczynski in 4th, a gap of 4 points to Gardner in 5th, and they're running down it faster than I can talk to you. There is the rest of the points scorers in the first 2 races of the season. Garriga, 9 points, all came from Japan. He crashed out of this race. Doug Chandler sneaks into the points again.
Yeah, I think we've got a bit more to come from Chandler as the races go on. The man is a very talented rider, and I'm waiting for that.
Yes, he is effectively a B team man. Oh, a Constructors' Championship. Yamaha lead by a point from Honda. Look at the Roton there, Keith, 5th place.
Yeah, that's actually good to see, isn't it?
It's in front of Kawasaki anyway. Now that'll make me popular as well, won't it?
Hello, Trev.
Explain yourself. Who was that mechanic?
Marlboro Yamaha celebrating.
You're right about that bit of architecture, Keith. I don't think it would win any awards.
It's like something I had hanging on the Christmas tree last year.
And I think the home crowd will want to give Mick Doohan a very big cheer indeed when he pops up onto the rostrum.
Well, man of the race really did deserve it, didn't he? I mean, that was a brave race right from the back. Well, not right from the back, but from a long way down.
Well, he was a front row of the grid starter, middle of the front row, 3rd man in qualifying, and on the 2nd lap I couldn't see him, Keith. He was back behind both the Kojivas, behind Garriga, behind I think at least one of the Sonorto Yamahas. He was buried.
Buried but not dead. There's going to be some Tui's draft going down this weekend. They've obviously found the way out, these people, haven't they?
Yes.
Don't use the main entrance, use the track, chaps.
Just like Assen. I think they're having trouble getting them to the rostrum. I don't know who's got them, whether it's the media or the crowd.
Well, actually not a bad Grand Prix from Eastern Creek, I've got to say. Reservations over the track earlier on by riders and teams alike. bit of a problem with practicing and the like.
The facility
Okay, g'day
reviews for the
everyone.
past 2 years
What a
was
fantastic
so
race.
wonderful.
Maybe not the
Who's this
result we
bloke?
wanted, but you can't complain about the race, and you
He's a
can't
car
complain
bloke,
about
isn't
the
he,
effort
Alan
that Mick
Jones?
Doohan put in.
Ex-car Formula One world champion Alan Jones doing the Master of Ceremonies
Okay,
job.
it's my privilege now to introduce to you those guys and those machines. Third place, John Kaczynski.
Yes, a mixed greeting for young John.
I get the impression we're going to have a fairly lengthy chair now. Mick Doohan.
Yep, the favourite.
I know why he wore his hat. He's going to get so wet. He's a gunslinger, isn't he? Cool eyes, no sweat.
He looks so cool.
Doesn't
I
look
think
like
we
does
all
he
agree,
do it?
Fantastic effort, and if he could have got off the line a bit better, who knows? But the one thing you can't take away is the ride that Wayne Rainey put in.
Yep, that is quite right, Alan Jones, as you would expect from a man of his experience. A man who really wanted to win that, and he wanted to win it in the way that Rainey knows best. Bury him from the start, control him from the front,
Okay,
and he
I'd now
put some
like to
physical
introduce Mr.
effort
Dwight
into that
Westlake,
motorcycle.
Managing Director
I
of
don't
Tourism
think
Limited,
I've ever
to
seen a
present the
500
trophy.
Yamaha getting quite that out of shape. Certainly not when Wayne Rainey's been riding it anyway.
I think a man very determined not to
Sydney, how do you feel?
let them all catch on and see where he's going this week.
A great
2
win.
weeks ago in Japan, he got caught up in the fight and just couldn't make any kind of break. We'll see where he goes from here in when we get to the USA next time round. Laguna obviously he knows very well. This man's happy with the proceedings, that's for sure.
The New South Wales Brewer values its association with this great event. We thank all our supporters for supporting our
Well
great
done
fans.
to his, I say.
That's the sponsor getting his word in, and quite right too.
Well done. To everyone associated with the event, well done. The New South Wales Government, well done. And in particular,
probably gonna get the Tui's national
congratulations
anthem in a
to the
moment.
winners and the competitors. Congratulations, Wayne Rainey. A special congratulations to Michael Doohan and to John Kaczynski. Well done.
And I think it could be said, Keith, that the crowd enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think very appreciative of all three riders, which I think is excellent.
Yes.
No, I mean, Doohan had a storming race, but at the end of the day, Wayne Rainey won it. And
Yep.
the trophies get bigger as we get to the 500 class. Obviously think that the 500 guys have got bigger muscles. Now the national anthem.
Tell me what's going on again, chaps, please, if you don't mind. Yes. Right. 500 standards. Okay.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Westlake. And while I'm here, I'd like to take the opportunity for a chair for Wayne Gardner and McGee. I think Kevin put up a great performance.
Amen to that.
Okay, well, it's champagne time. I'm getting out of here.
In Japan, they opened the bottles for them, Keith. Did you notice
It's
2 weeks ago?
Obviously far too...
I always think that is such a waste, you know, Keith.
They obviously don't, do they really? Let's have a hose down.
No,
Oh,
it's
there's
fun,
a-
fun, fun.
There's a young lady who looks like she deserves a hose down with some champagne.
Again, for the third time in its 3-year existence, it has to be said that the Australians have given us a very good Grand Prix. But I think Mick Doohan just did something dreadful to a promotions girl.
Well, one of them did.
Yep, doing.
John Kaczynski doesn't quite know what to make of that yet. I'm sure they'll show him.
Oh, Wayne Rainey just looks so cool, doesn't he?
Isn't he just? Well, despite the criticism, a great Grand Prix from Eastern Creek. Yes, that girl looks well wet.
Let's go back over a fantastic day's racing and look at all the results. In the 125 Grand Prix, Loris Capirossi won from teammate Grissini, Japanese Grand Prix victor Ueda, all on Hondas. In fourth place was Ezio Gianola on the Derby, and an excellent fifth for Ralph Volderman, and an equally excellent sixth for Koichi Takada. In the 250s, Luca Cadalora left it till the last lap again to beat Helmut Bradl with Carlos Cardus well in arrears, all three of them on Hondas. Zeelenberg brought his Honda to fourth with the Aprilias of Loris Reggiani and Pier Francesco Chili in fifth and sixth. And as we have just seen in the 500s, Rainey on the Yamaha from Doohan on the Honda, and the second Yamaha of John Kaczynski in third place. Fourth place for Wayne Gardner, fifth for Kevin Schwantz, and an excellent sixth for the ever-improving Kajiva in the hands of the master, Eddie Lawson.
That's right, here we are. Is that all right? Hello, hello, hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, there's indication that Wayne Rainey can count. He knows where his laps are.
So you must have just got him right at the very end, huh?
Of course, he doesn't think we can hear him, which is always a bit of a worry, really. We might get a bit of a secret information from these three if they think they're not on air.
What about lap 6 laps in the end? Well, no, probably more than that. 7 laps in the end.
About 6, I reckon, wasn't it? Yeah.
Is he hard to get around?
I see that Mick Doohan has taken the precaution of having a Michelin logo stitched to his hat. These aren't standard issue Michelin hats now, are they, Keith?
Well, I suppose he's going to end up standing on his head tonight after that good ride, so he needs a bit of grip on his hat.
The third round of the championship, the American Grand Prix, comes up on April the 21st from the Laguna Seca Raceway in Southern California, USA. And don't forget, you'll be seeing it all live on Eurosport. 500s, 250s and the opening sidecar race. But today in Australia it was this man, Wayne Rainey, who imposed his will on the rest of the field with a green light to checkered flag.
Wanted to get that good start, and you got it.
Well, you know, we didn't know what this track was going to produce as far as what kind of racing, and so I figured I'd better get a start since turn 2 is a real tight turn and be real easy to get in trouble, and just kind of rode a real comfortable pace and never really got in trouble. The wind was kind of picking up through turns 1 there and about blew us off the track a few times, but yeah, it was a pretty smooth race for us.
John Kaczynski chasing you all the way, you were getting your pit board telling you, and suddenly a new name appeared, Michael Doohan. Did that worry you, or did you think you were just too far in front with, what, 6 laps remaining?
Well, unless he started clicking a second off a lap, then faster than I was going, yes, I was going to be worried, but I kept the pace hard, and he was picking up 2 or 3 tenths a lap, and I knew that wouldn't be enough time for him to get me, so I wasn't really too concerned unless I made a big mistake.
There's a real unknown quantity here, wasn't it, Eastern Creek? You came out on top, but I think everybody was anxious to really know what was going to happen here.
Yeah, I think they've done a heck of a job with this racetrack. It's a lot of fun to race around. I think the crowd was outstanding, and this was really, it turned out to be a really fine race.
I remember at Phillip Island last year, you're very popular with the Australians, aren't you? Although you didn't win the race there, but they really have taken you to their hearts.
Well, I tell you, Mick and Wayne are very lucky to have the fans the way that get behind them the way they do. I think that's really great. It's good for the sport, and I've always enjoyed coming to Australia just for that particular reason, because the Australian fans are so into motorcycle racing, and it makes me feel good.
35 points to you, I think. 34 to Michael. It's already looking a very close race for the championship.
Yeah, it's going to be a long season.
Over to Michael. Terrible start. You must have been so bitterly disappointed with the start. You made up all the ground, but you were never quite going to catch him, were you?
No, I knew from about the second lap, I think. I could see Wayne as I was coming over the bridge. He was already well and truly around the turn 4 or whatever it is, I think, turn 5 maybe.
What actually happened at the start?
I just couldn't get it out of gear from when I done the warm-up lap. I couldn't get it back into neutral for the start, and I sat there with the clutch in for too long, and I let it out, and I thought it's all right, and then when I let it out the final bit, it just bogged, it just snapped, just bit, and I ended up being behind, and I had to wait for I think 2 laps before I ended up getting past like even Rougier and them guys, and then picked them back off.
Yeah, what, 9th at the end of the first lap?
Oh, I'm not sure, I know. All I could see was Wayne and John just going, I was just worried about seeing if I could get up there.
Great support for you, though. The Australians, they do get behind their sporting heroes, don't they?
Yeah, it's actually a good crowd out there. It's good, and I think they're happy to see Wayne win it. I'm a little bit disappointed that I couldn't do what Wayne Gardner has done, but I tried, and Wayne got the better of me.
You've always told us that consistency would win the World Championship. 2 second places in the opening 2 rounds. You'd have loved to have won here, but that's not a bad start to the season.
Yeah, it's all right, but there's nothing like winning. If I could win, I'd win.
Sitting alongside you, John Kaczynski. He chased you hard, didn't he, John, for a long time, and finally got past you.
Yeah, I could see that at first he started catching up, and then it seemed like I pulled it back out, and I thought maybe that I could maybe hold him off, but then after the halfway point he started coming and just sliding around a little bit more than I felt comfortable, and there was not too much I could do, and he was charging hard, and I got third today.
You must be happy with your start to the 500 season. Only your third ride or your third race on a 500cc machine?
Yeah, but it's pretty frustrating. I know I've only raced 2 races, but I'm already tired of getting third and fourth, and just from last year and coming into this year, from 7 wins to not winning is kind of a big jump.
Is there a big difference riding a 250 and then onto a 500?
Oh, you bet. The level of competition is very steep in the 500 class, and all these guys they have the same mentality I do, and that's to go out and kill. And it's a lot different. A lot of guys, these guys don't give up, and they push right to the flag, and it's just something I'm going to have to get used to. And just I tell you, experience seems to be playing a part in this game.
Final question now, back with Wayne Rainey. A lot of criticism of the 500cc class last season, small grid, so you won the championship very easily, but these opening 2 rounds in Japan 2 weeks ago, the race here at Eastern Creek, I think it's put the 500s right back on the map.
Yeah, I think this year you're going to see a lot more of what we've seen in Japan and also here. I expect a lot closer racing than we had last year, and I think 500s is the class, and I think that's what the younger riders should be chasing is to be in the 500 class, because these bikes are a lot of fun to ride, and I think they're pretty exciting to watch, and it's good racing.
I think everybody will agree, very exciting to watch. Congratulations to Wayne Rainey, Michael Doohan and John Kaczynski.
Thank you.
Well, the Australian Grand Prix produced wonderful racing again. From me, Julian Ryder, and from Keith Ewan, goodbye.